William, thanks a lot for coming in to see us today. I really appreciate your willingness to tell us your story.
Well, it's a long time ago, but I'll probably start.
Okay.
The reason I joined
Let
it,
me ask you this part. For our audience, tell me your name.
William Trent,
Trent.
right,
When were you born?
11/21/31,
What's your current address?
1610, 28th Street, Portsmouth, Ohio.
Okay.
The Hillview Retirement Center.
Okay. Where were you before then?
Well, I lived in Porter Township for approximately, well, I had my own house for 50 years. I bought it new and lived in it until I...
Porter Township, that's the Wheelersburg area.
The
there,
Wheelersburg
isn't it,
area,
up in
yes.
this county. Okay. The library likes to get a little bit about your family tree. So what was your father's name?
Earl.
Earl Trent. Your mother's name?
Veda
What was her maiden name?
Hill.
Veda Hill? Okay. Now, how far back can you go? What was your grandfather's, paternal grandfather's name?
The grandfather's name was Marion. His grandfather was Alexandra. Let me think now. I can't think of the third grandfather. I can go to the fourth one. Humphrey.
Humphrey. Humphrey Trent.
And after him was Frederick.
Frederick.
And there's some skips there.
Okay.
But I have some, but there's some skips that we can't pick up yet.
Has somebody done a
Yes.
family search?
Yes.
Is it all written down somewhere?
It's all written down.
Where is that?
Well, I have
You have it?
a full copy of it
Okay, so
on both sides, on my mom and also
Okay.
my grandpa.
now what was your mom's name again? Veda or
Veda.
Veda?
Veda.
What was her father's name?
I can't recall.
But it's all written down somewhere.
I've got it all written down. Yeah.
How far back can you go? Can you go back to the Revolution?
Yes, I can go back further than that.
Really?
We can go back to, I think the information I have is about 1653.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would that be England?
We don't know where it's England or Scotland. I even have the family.
Crest?
Yes.
Okay.
To give you an idea, William Trent and Ben Franklin were in business together.
They were buddies?
He formed Trenton, New Jersey.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was trading with England and Cuba and all these places.
And that's a relative of yours?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you have any siblings, brothers, sisters?
Yes, I had two older brothers and an older sister and a younger brother. There was 5 in the family.
5 children.
Yeah.
Okay. You had a merry old time there in the house, didn't you?
Yeah.
Well, your brothers now, is any of them still living?
No, but only my younger brother. The rest of the family's passed.
Now, were any of those siblings in the military?
Yes, my brother was. My older brother was in the Second World War.
Your oldest brother was?
Yes, he joined the Army in 1939 after high school, and he wanted to be a pilot. But it ended up, it wouldn't take him because of his eyes. And he ended up in Illinois, I can't remember the place, and he taught all the radio operators on aircrafts, B-17s and B-24s.
Okay. Now, were any of your other siblings in the service?
My younger brother.
Okay. Yeah. What was he, in the Army or?
No, he's in the Air Force. He joined with me. That's the story I told.
Oh yeah, you were telling me a little story. Tell me that story so we can get it.
Okay, I was going to be drafted, and I'd already had the physical and everything, and I knew this was very close because there was 2 or 3 guys that was in high school older than me that were drafted in the Marines. So me and a friend of mine Oh, this is getting into another story. But anyway, a friend of mine, he is 6 years younger than me. We went through first grade, all the way through Air Force, and we're still friends. He lives in Columbus. And me and him decided we were both going to be drafted, that we would go and join. I beat the draft by 5 days.
5 days you beat the
I
draft.
had 5 days.
That's how you got in the Air Force
Right.
instead of the Army.
And my younger brother tagged along. And we were very close. There's 4 years difference between Don and myself. So
Yeah.
he tagged along and he forged his birth certificate. And
He forged it?
Yes, and they took him. I mean, he was big for his age. We went through basic together, and after basic, they shipped him to Minnesota and me to Texas. So anyway, after a few months, he wrote my dad a letter and sent him these papers, and he says, "You know that I'm underage, and I forged my birth certificate." He says, "You can get me out." So my dad wrote him a nice letter, and he says, "Well, son, you were a man when you left, and you'll be a man when you get back." And at 36 and a half years old, he retired an E9 Master Sergeant out of the Air Force.
That's great. That's a great story. Yeah.
And he was a politician in the Air Force.
He was a politician. What
And
do you mean?
I'll explain this story.
Oh, yeah.
He was stationed at the base up at Ladd Air Force Base. What's the next city up in Alaska? I'm going.
Juneau or,
No.
oh, no, I know.
But anyway,
Yeah.
he raised, all three of his kids were born
In
Fairbanks, Alaska. But
Fairbanks.
anyway, all three of his children was born there. And he got to know quite a few people. These colonels had come in from Washington, they wanted to go salmon fishing. Don took them. And he got to know quite a few people. But he's a different story. I mean,
That's a
he had good places to go. Bermuda, and he ended up at the Air Force Academy teaching guys how to survive in the desert and the jungle and all this stuff.
That's a great story.
But anyway, he ended up making a career in the Air Force.
Are you married?
Oh, yes.
Is this your beautiful wife over here?
This is my second wife. Yeah.
Okay, hello.
We've been married 31 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you have children?
Yes, 3 daughters.
Where are they?
One's in Florida. She's been in Florida approximately 35 years. She works for an advertising agency, and her husband is a food salesman, very successful. My second daughter lives in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, and her husband owns a commercial plumbing business. They're doing very well. And then my younger daughter, she lives in Lima, Ohio, and her husband is not a drug representative, but he covers about 3 or 4 states for GlaxoSmithKline, a drug manufacturer.
So they're doing well then.
Oh, yeah.
Do you having grandchildren?
Yes.
How many?
We got 10.
10?
Well, they was 2 from a previous marriage with Marilyn, and I have 7.
Do you have any great-grandchildren?
One. We got a grandson.
That's great.
And one of our granddaughters, who is Janet's daughter, graduated from university with a law degree. And she I don't know if she's passing the bar, but she should know something.
Okay, great.
And then my younger daughter, her son graduated from University of Toledo with an engineering degree.
Wow.
Matter of fact, he was up at the soda plant here in West Virginia a couple of weeks ago on something he was working on. So they all done good, very good.
Did you graduate from high school?
Did not.
Did not.
Did not.
Well, what high school did you not graduate from?
Gilbert High School is no longer.
No
it's
longer
long
there?
Gone. No.
Where is Gilbert?
Gilbert is in southern West Virginia in Mingo County.
Okay.
My dad was a coal miner.
Oh, yes. Okay. So you did not, when did you quit or what happened there? Were you,
I quit and went to work
where did you go to work at?
in an automobile plant in Detroit.
You ran away from home?
I was so dumb, I didn't know how to catch a bus or use a telephone. I really didn't.
Really?
Because we never had a phone. And
Okay. Well, what made you want to go to work in Detroit?
well, it wasn't hard work. It was easier than going to work in a coal mine. The area that I came from is unreal. It's no more. It's gone.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I was born and raised in a coal camp up a hollow.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, all the coal worked out and the company pulled out and it's all back forest. All houses, everything's gone.
Even the community is not there at all?
No, it's gone.
When's the last time you were back to that area?
Well, it's been about 4 years ago. What we did, the people that lived there got together and we made we come back every Memorial Day weekend, and we had a reunion.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. Guys that I know that they didn't have shoes to go to school. There's majors in the Army. One guy was a very smart kid, had 9 kids in the family. He's the one that discovered the white headlights that you use today.
Really?
Yeah. So
amazing.
It was amazing.
Yes.
The people, that you grew up with, that we had about maybe 75 people every reunion, It was amazing.
Well, when you're working in Detroit there, you're in the automobile plant there? Okay. When was that you started working there?
Let's see. I'd say 49 and 50.
49?
But see, no, it's later than that. Let me think again. This was 50 to 52. I worked at Ford. I worked at Chrysler. I built DeSoto's. And I built Hudson.
DeSoto's and Hudson's?
Yeah.
All those great cars.
And what happened, I knew I was going to be drafted. I was 1A then. And I quit and came back. And I fished and hunted and about 6 or 7 months, and then I joined the Air Force.
You knew you were going to get drafted, so you might as well go in the Air Force and not go in the Army.
Right.
Was that during the Korean War?
During Korean War. We had this friend of mine, Denzel, we had a nice guy that went to school with us, but his dad owned a sawmill and a small truck mine and that, and he didn't want to do that. Anyway, he ended up at Marshall. And he got down there and he started partying and that, and they ripped him out. The minute they did that, they picked him up. He got killed when the Chinese overrun the reservoir.
Oh, boy.
He didn't want to go. He didn't want to join.
Well, when you went in the Air Force, would that be about 52, 53?
It was April 23rd, 52.
Okay. Then, you would go to, what did your folks and your family think about you going into service?
Oh, they did. They thought it was a good deal. Okay. My dad said, hey, you make your own decision. But he says,
did you go to basic training in San Antonio?
Oh, no.
Where'd
I went basic training in upstate New York.
You did? What was the name of that base?
Sampson Air Force Base.
Sampson.
I can't tell you what I thought about that. It was heated with coal, and they were World War II barracks. I think I went through basic for 8 weeks. Full 1 KP.
1 KP?
Yeah, 1 KP in the Air Force. And of all things, I pulled KP one time. They fed approximately 4,000 in this major chow hall.
I'll bet, yes.
And you know what I did? They had liver and onions. And we had cases of liver, and I cut liver all day long.
Oh, boy.
And to this day, I will not eat liver. And after that, I came back to the barracks, and I pulled my shoes off, took my wallets out, took everything out, and just walked in the shower with all my fatigues on. I was bloody from here down.
Was that during basic, you say? Was
It's
that
basic, yeah.
Was the basic hard? Was it basic?
No, I didn't have no trouble at all. I was in better shape than the TI. I mean, climbing hills and
Yeah?
fishing and
All right,
hunting.
right.
And guys were getting blisters on their feet. No, I didn't have any problem at all, basic.
After basic, then what did you do? Did you
Well,
come home for a while and visit
Oh,
folks?
no, after basic, I was put on a train. Me and Denzel both stayed together to Perrin Air Force Base.
Where?
Perrin, it's no more.
Where?
This was in between Denison and Sherman, Texas, up next to the border with Oklahoma.
Okay.
And what it was, we were both in the fire department. I didn't like it from day one. And I was in the fire department approximately 4 months, and I asked to see the captain over the squadron. And I told him I would appreciate if I could be transferred out of the fire department. And I transferred out of the fire department, and I ended up in the base communications center on a switchboard. I was working all income calls from Sherman and Denison, Texas, onto the base. But they had set me up for school, and I was there about 6 or 8 weeks, and I ended up in school for approximately 10 weeks.
What was the school for?
Well, what they said I did was a specialist in supply, and it's crazy. But anyway, from there I went. I was shipped to Westover Air Force Base in Massachusetts, and I knew I was going overseas, but didn't know where. And I took 8 shots in 4 days.
8 vaccinations?
8 vaccinations.
Yeah.
And I was issued a different clothing, everything. And I ended up in Morocco.
Morocco. Okay.
And that was PCS for 1 year. That was terrible duty.
Before you went to Morocco, were you able to get home and see the folks? No.
No. And anyway.
How did you get over to Morocco? Did you fly or
We
on?
flew.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, and what that was a transition for B-52s that flew all the southern part of the world, over Africa and Middle East and all that. And the outfit I was in was known as Airways and Air Communications Service, and it at that time was under the Military Air Transport Command. This all changed around now. But anyway, we supported all the communications on the base. That's a tower, everything but the local phones and that. We didn't have nothing to do, but ground control support and weather intercept and all that. And pardon my language, it is hellacious duty.
Okay.
I mean, you'd get 102 during the day, 65 at night. We were just, probably 50 to 60 miles from the Sahara Desert, where we were at.
How long were you in Morocco?
Well, it was a year's duty, but I didn't get a full year. I got 8 months, and I was pulled back to Andrews. And I had no idea, you know. And I said, of all places, I don't want to go to Andrews.
That's Washington, D.C., isn't it?
Well, not only that, all these kings and queens coming in with a red carpet, you're going to get all this extra duty. But what happened, we came back and we had about 3 to 4 weeks, what do I want to call it, of meetings and that. And the first meeting we had, my mind was blown. But to go back for a longer story, my dad, I got him a letter, and he said, these people here want to know about you. He says, they've talked to the minister, they talked to school teachers, they talked to some neighbors. I didn't know. Later I knew what happened. So the whole group that worked with this situation that we had at the time in the world, we had people that went to Southeast Asia. They may go to Australia, New Zealand, and those places. And we had other people that went to Turkey, to Israel, and all that. And they split these groups up. And I was in a 17-man group with a captain. And he blew my mind.
Mm-hmm.
He says, you have been picked. You have been approved. You are a class 2 security. He says, you don't talk to your wife. You don't talk to your family. You don't talk to no one. He says, you will be court-martialed. So what happened in the world after World War II, we had NATO, and it was a mess. After World War II, it just wasn't set up at that time for the different countries to really communicate within the military. And that's what we did.
What was your rank when that captain told you?
I was a second class.
Second class? What's that mean?
That's 2 stripes.
Okay.
And anyway, the first job we had was in Alaska. And we weren't the only ones working. The Army, the Navy. We were there from 3rd or 4th of April until the 13th of December. We were there 6 months on this. That was the biggest job that we did.
In Alaska?
In Alaska. And what the mission was, well, of course, you know, the Russians and the Americans meet in right in the middle of the ocean there. So we built a new radar and weather system from the Aleutians to the Bering Strait.
That was to pick up Russian aircraft then, wasn't it?
Yeah, we could see Russia from our back porch when we
could.
got done. This was the latest.
Uh-huh.
World War II equipment was just not well enough to do what had to be done. We put transmitters in, it would change between 3 and 8 seconds apart. And the receiver, 3 and 8 seconds apart. In other words, if we send a crypto message, which is the highest transmission of any kind of message, you had a receiver that could just receive that and nothing else. If it went into the Pentagon, whoever had to get the message, that's who it went to. No one in the Pentagon could copy that message.
Were you, did you see Russian planes
Oh, no.
flying over?
No, I was in Anchorage the whole time.
I see, yeah, okay. Well, and now when you were in Andrews, you were talking about kings and queens. Did you see anybody famous?
No.
Okay.
No, that was so restricted. I mean, high security there. You just wouldn't see that at all.
Now you were in the Air Force for a long time. How long were you in the Air Force?
4 years.
4 years in the Air Force. Okay. Did you retire, or I mean, what?
I wanted to stay in. The military's crazy. Here they train all these guys to do this special stuff.
Uh-huh.
And they said to make tech, I would have had to start in a different career field, come all the way up, take 8 years to make tech. I got out. That's stupid.
Well, so now you're in Alaska, and you were there for 8 months, or how long were you?
Oh, we were there 6 months.
6 months. Okay. Well, after that, where did you go?
Well, I come home and took a long vacation for Christmas. But I'll tell you the end of the story.
Okay.
We had 17 men in our group, but all total, I'd say they were, in our group, they were probably 100 men, 100 people working. Mm-hmm. Up at Ladd, I mean, they were in different places. They wasn't all in Anchorage. And we all wanted to get home for Christmas. So the captain went down to Air Ops just for their group, you know, about a week or so before we were going to leave. And the Alaskan Air Command says, our command has priority. Our guys are going, we don't care where you get to Christmas or not. So anyway, this went on for about a week, and finally we got it straightened out. And you know how we got home? Northwest Airlines flew us and all of our equipment. I had roast duck and a glass of wine and everything. They flew us to Washington National.
You had roast duck and a glass of wine on Northwest Airlines.
Yeah.
Were you married at the time?
No,
Okay.
no. I didn't get married after I got out of service.
Till you got out of the service.
But anyway, I was home for Christmas, and I went back, I think, around the 10th or 12th of January. And they already had us ready.
Ready for what?
Another long job. So I went to Stevensville, Newfoundland. We're working with the Canadians now.
Okay.
And we did a job there. It was like, it wasn't a big job, about 2 weeks. And then we went to Goose Bay, Labrador. Mm-hmm. We did another job. And I found out later that's part of the pine tree line.
Was that where you were setting up radar and
yes.
things like that? Okay.
We did, they were quick jobs. We just modified some of the equipment they had. Mm-hmm. But all I did was take care of, every time you moved a drawing or anything, it was, I had to secure it and sign out and make sure.
This is all classified, isn't it?
Yes.
This is secret stuff.
Yes, everything.
Okay. All right. That's why they were checking you out when they came to the house and all that sort of stuff.
And then we did a job in Iceland. That was another quick job. And then we really got a bad one. BW-8 Greenland.
Greenland?
Yeah, this is northwest of Thule, and what it was a big, it was a joint thing with Canada. And of course we put in some new radar and modified. That was a short job, but oh my gosh, you had to wear a face mask and bunny boots.
In Greenland we're doing this?
Well, we were in Greenland.
Uh-huh.
And then from the operations, they had a rope line. You held on to that to get to the chow hall. I mean,
Because the wind?
The wind, yes.
Okay, wow.
And we were there like 14 days. And the guys that worked out of Thule, it was 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And
it doesn't sound like pleasant duty, does it?
And then from there, we did about a 4-month or 5-month job in the Azores. Fantastic duty. The Azores, the temperatures, like at night, it'll get down to maybe 52. During the day, go to 78. In the afternoon, you get a rain. In the morning, it's just beautiful. Good seafood, good wine.
You like the Azores, I think.
Oh yeah, it was a good duty.
Did you get into Europe any?
I'll get to that.
Okay, we're at Azores now. Go ahead.
We're in the Azores. The next job I had was Tripoli, Libya. That was a big job. That was about 4.5 to 5. Now, I'll explain that. That was one of the worst places. You'd get 122 during the day, at night get 65, and you have to wear a coat because there's no moisture. And what they did there in Europe with the fighter groups, they had no place to do nowhere to do transition. In other words, I'm trying to explain this. Their fighter groups had nowhere they could practice. So this was a whole new thing that was put in the desert. They put new runways in, put controls, everything. And all the French, the Germans, all of them brought their fighter groups down there, and that's where they trained, in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
And we were there about 5 months. It's horrible. It's horrible.
So far, the Azores has everything beat, doesn't it?
Well, there's
Maybe.
a lot of good places.
Yeah. Okay. Well, after Tripoli, then, where did you go?
Let's see. Back to Cities of Maine.
Back
we
to
did
where?
a mod job. Cities of Maine, where I originally went overseas. Did a job there. Then we did a job in Scotland at First and Feldbrook. That was a fast job. And we did another job in England. I did just part of that, not much. I can't even remember where it was at. But then the goodie came.
The goodie?
Yeah, we did at the embassy in Paris. I worked in civilian clothes, and we were there 17 days.
Oh, was it long enough?
Yeah. And you know what our cover? We were students from the University of Chicago studying architecture. And we stayed in a Hotel Eatery, and the embassy was great. They had a set up to where we took a tour of Paris. We seen the Tower, the Louvre, and we also got to go to the Moulin Rouge, and we seen the Can-Can one evening.
You did?
Yeah. And
It's better than the Azores now, isn't it?
oh no, we're
No?
in France.
You're in France?
We're in France, yeah.
Okay, of course, of course.
And then the next, we did two, what am I thinking of? Embassies. We did Portugal. I was in Lisbon.
When
Lisbon.
you say you did the embassies, what are you doing in the embassies? Are you
We did the same thing.
securing and?
Yeah, we did all the security on the
Okay.
communications.
Well, you know, you're in,
Crypto, that's the highest form of any transmission.
well now. Did you get to see any of those messages that went out on?
Oh, no.
You didn't get.
No, that's a different story.
But it's not your story.
No.
Oh, okay. Now you're in Lisbon, Portugal, right? Is that a good place?
Oh, that's a beautiful city. To me, it would probably be the oldest city in Europe. The architecture and streets and food was good.
Mm.
The only thing, I went to a bullfight and I said, never in this world, I don't ever want to see another one.
Not, you want to see another bullfire?
But,
The Portuguese liked it though, didn't they?
oh yeah.
That's a big thing over there.
Yeah, I know when we were in the Azores, we had, I think it was 6 or 8 men to a unit. And we had 2 guys we paid. They done our laundry and all that. And we went and stayed with them for a weekend. One of the guys that he done our wash and everything. And his ambition for his daughter was to get to America. But
Wonder if that ever happened.
then we did the same thing when we were in the city of Maine. Before we came back, before we shipped back stateside, we had 12 men to a hut, and we had 2 Arab guys that did our wash, shined our shoes, did all the work, you know.
And you're just enlisted guys, aren't you?
Oh yeah, yeah. But anyway,
Where was City Semaine? You said.
City Semaine was probably 150 miles southeast of Casablanca. It's almost in the desert.
Okay. Yeah.
But anyway, these 2 guys, these 2 Arabs, before we came back, we gave them the money and we told them we want to have an authentic Arabic dinner. So he says, we can do that. So anyway, we sat right down on the floor. They even had a tent. We ate in a tent right on the ground, and they brought all this. The food was fantastic. But his wife went crazy.
His wife?
She seen me eating with my left hand.
Oh, that's crazy.
In Arabic, you don't do that. You use that to wipe with.
Yes.
And a lot of crazy things.
Then what happened?
We were out, when I said Smain, we were out one time, I don't know, we was near Rabat or somewhere. And we looked out, and then there's a camel and a donkey working in a field, plowing or something. But anyway, I heard this later, that they said the reason the Arabs do that, they asked the guy, you know, why you do that? He says, well, we do that so the donkey can't talk to the camel and the camel can't talk to the donkey, and they work better. But, you know, just crazy things like that you pick up.
Paris, Lisbon. Now, after Lisbon, where did you go?
Let's see. Let me think. I'm getting it mixed up. I was in City Semaine first and then to Libya.
To go to Italy, any?
No, I never. We had some guys work. I knew we had groups working there, but I never did get to Spain.
Germany?
No, I didn't get to Germany. Oh yeah, I got to Germany. We were in Azores, and what happened? We had some change notices that come through, and some of the work was being done. And they made a mistake and sent it to Rhine-Main. That's the air base in Germany. So they needed this like 2 days ago. So the captain come over. At that time, I have another stripe. I'm a 3 stripes. And anyway, what they did, I got on a plane, and a fellow came with me. We had a sidearm and a satchel, and I picked up we went to Rhine-Main, we got back to the air installations, and I walked up and I said, we got to have a clearance, or we got to have passage back to the Lodges Field in the Azores. He says, everything's booked to McGuire. And I pulled out, I said, we got a CIPAP priority, you bump someone. And they bumped the colonel and his family off to get me
For
back.
you.
Yeah. Never pulled KP after that, nothing. Just
Nothing.
Didn't work.
You weren't married then, were you?
Oh, no. Okay. But anyway, you was asking me, I'm getting times and that mixed up. But anyway, I was shipped back to Andrews, and I think I had something like 5 months and 3 days left. And our group was going to join the South Pacific group. They were going to Australia and New Zealand and to do some rework. And I wanted to go. But what happened, me checking, I made staff then in there, so I made another stripe. And I was going to stay in. I was going to go to the 20. And when I found out that my career fuel was frozen, I said, no, I'm going to get out. So then they shipped me to Wright Pat. And that was interesting, the 5 months that I was there.
Just right up here in Dayton?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And
why was that interesting?
well, it's all research. It's all research. But what happened, there was a North Korean flew a MiG-14 into the K-14, that's the aerodrome in Korea, and it was shipped to Wright Pat.
This Korean,
This-
he defected.
This aircraft, yeah, the aircraft ended up at Wright Pat, and they took it apart.
Oh, boy.
They even checked down to every nut, every bolt, everything. If anything was strange, they wanted to know which country it came from, who made it, what made it, put it back together, and sent it out to Nellis. Nellis is a fighter group.
Yeah.
And they found out all about maneuverability and, and everything. And what they found was this aircraft was faster, but was not maneuverable. And of course, they didn't have the type of pilots flying those MiGs that we had. But that was interesting.
Did you see that? Did you see that plane?
Yeah, oh yeah.
You worked on it?
I didn't work on it. But I handled some paperwork. I mean,
Interesting.
all the manuals were in Polish, Russian, French, English, and that's all these places, that I guess that the different countries where they would move these aircraft to.
Interesting.
And I found out later there was another one stolen. It was stolen off a flat car in East Germany, smuggled. It was a MiG-17. It was a little bit later aircraft. They're up there in the.
Are they both at Nellis?
No, the planes. These two aircraft are in the museum.
At Dayton?
Yeah, the Air Force Museum.
Oh, I'd love to see that. Yeah. Tell me something, William. What does a single airman do when he's on leave or he gets recreation time?
Oh, I didn't get into that. I didn't. When I was at Perrin Field, guys would sit in the club and they'd drink beer and they'd complain about the city and whatnot. You know what I did? I'm Methodist. I went to church every Sunday morning in town.
Exactly.
Yeah. One Sunday, this guy said to me, he said, how'd you like to come out for a cookout? And I had a barbecue. And I got to know him. I ended up, he had gotten tickets to the SMU Baylor game. And I went down to Dallas with him, and I got to see a football game.
All right.
So when you're in a strange place, I mean, special operations was just wonderful in the Air Force. You go down there, and he says, oh yeah, we've got a group going up to the first trip I was to Rabat. That was the capital of Morocco. I went to Marrakech, Tangiers, and all these places with a group. You got to see more. In Paris is the same way. The embassy did that for us. But guys failed to do that, There's so much to see. D.C., what time I was there, I was over in the museums, or I was going to Lincoln Memorial and all the stuff.
When did you get out of the service?
56, April the 24th, 1956.
Have you kept any contact with any of the people that you were in the service with?
Just my friend.
Just
Me and him went to a reunion up at Wright Pat. We didn't know no one, and we never renewed it. It just went one time.
You liked the military, though, didn't
Oh,
you?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So when you were discharged, where were you when you
I
were?
was at Wright Pat.
You were up in Dayton.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Did you come home? Did you go home? Where did you go after that?
Well, I had a brother in Cincinnati. I spent a lot of time going down to Cincinnati on the weekends.
Uh-huh.
And
Why was Cincinnati important?
well, it wasn't important. I just go to see
Yeah.
my brother on the weekend.
Okay, all right. And then where did you end up after that?
Well, When I got out of service, I went home and went to work for a coal company at night, weighing coal trucks.
Was that in Gilbert? Was that down in West Virginia?
In the area, yeah.
That area.
And gosh, that was not a good. There wasn't no future to it. So, me and a friend of mine decided that we'd go to Chicago and go through a trade school. So we went out there for right at 2 years and went through diesel electric school. And I got out, and all the railroads were switching to, well, Norfolk Southern was switching from steam to diesel. So I went down, and oh man, I went to Roanoke and got a physical and took a test. They were going to hire me right now. And I sat on the front porch with a section former, and he said, if you take that job, you're going to wash the tools and make the coffee. For 20 years, you'll be a Class 1 mechanic. So I ended up in Cincinnati with Cummins.
Cummins,
the manufacturer of diesel engine, in a rebuild center. And that was a good job. They rebuilt a unit, and I put it on a dynamometer, I ran it in, I checked the RPM, the horsepower, the brake horsepower, and all this stuff, put it on a page, put it with the engine, and do another one. That was monotonous. And I got a job with Rish Equipment Company.
Who?
Rish. And they sell all types of heavy equipment. That's bulldozers and graders and cranes and asphalt equipment.
You're still in Cincinnati now?
Yeah, and I was there 28 years.
In Cincinnati?
Yes, and I ended up working in the shop, worked in the parts department, worked in the rental, worked in lease, worked all this stuff.
You must have liked that job.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I liked what I did.
It wasn't boring.
But something happened. I had 28 years in, and on it's a Thursday. It said, be in Cincinnati on Thursday. I'm living here. I have this sales area up here. So anyway, I go to Cincinnati. They're taking stuff out of bins and everything. Wall Street got hold of the company. Guy, he parachuted his stock, and Wall Street got control of it. They took all the assets out of the company and shut it down.
Oh boy.
I'm 56 years old and out of a job.
And married with children?
And married with 3 children. So I'm in Ashland. I'm still working for I'm in Ashland with the customer. And he said, Bill, with your knowledge, he says, why don't you just call John Deere? I called Moline, Illinois, and talked to 3 different people. And they set me up with a dealership in Marietta. And I went to work January the 1st, kept the same area that I was covering. I worked for them for 11 years.
Was that a good job?
Oh yeah, I enjoyed selling John Deere equipment. And anyway.
I got a lawnmower, John Deere.
No, I didn't sell any of that. But anyway, I interviewed for the job, and when I worked for Rich, they wanted you to wear a tie. Well, I never did. I says, do you have a dress code? He said, Trent, we don't care if you wear skivvies as long as you sell our equipment. We don't have call reports. We don't have monthly reports. Just get out and sell. And I sold logging equipment and construction equipment. And I was very successful.
Did you retire out of that job? Was that
Yes.
that's where you retired
Well,
out
I
of?
retired from Rich too. I got my retirement from Rich.
Rich and John Deere. Okay. Where did you settle down then?
Oh, I stayed right here. I retired right here.
In Portsmouth?
Yeah.
Okay.
But working for Rich, if I would have surveyed the area, I wouldn't have taken a job because the egg plant was closing, the steel mill was going down, Harps Walker, all these places were closing up. And then the coal boom hit. That's when I'm working for Rich. So I started migrating down to Martin County and Floyd and all those places and picking up, and I was very successul. This ring is coal. I got that.
That's a chunk of coal.
That's a chunk of coal. But I ended up, I was very successful. And I knew coal. I knew Cole, and
So, when did you get married the first time?
I got married. I think it was October the 24th, 1959. I married, my first wife was from Cincinnati.
She was in Cincinnati. Yeah.
And the three daughters are from that marriage.
Okay. And then when did you get married the second
Well,
time?
Marilyn worked for Maury McGovney.
Where, McGovney here?
Yeah, and McGovney had several pieces of our equipment, so I knew her a long time.
Okay.
And I was in there one day, and I says, "Could I ask you a question?" She said, "Sure." I said, "Would you go out and have dinner with me this weekend?" Well, that's another story. But anyway, we went to dinner, and
Where'd you go to dinner?
we went up to Jackson, to the winery.
Up to where?
Jackson.
There was a winery up there, wasn't there?
They had a restaurant and everything.
I think it was Gendra, wasn't it? Gendra's winery?
I've had a good life.
Sounds great.
I enjoyed what I did.
Sounds great.
And I'll tell you a story about John Deere.
Tell me.
I called on loggers. Now, loggers is a different group. But anyway, this man was very successful, very honest, and he only had about an 8th grade education. I wrote a letter, order for a new skidder. This was, end of December, and I wanted to get it in that year's business. Well, he didn't want delivery until March. Every year, the company would take the dealers, good customers, to Moline. They'd take them to the factory and wind them, dine them, and had a nice trip. So I asked him, I said, "Burnham, how would you like to go John Deere?" "Well, I don't know," he said. "I talked to my wife." He'd never been in a hotel overnight. He'd never been in an elevator. He'd never been on an airplane. And this is a trip that was. He's going. Everything's set up. I picked him, his wife brought him up, and I picked him up, and we drove up to Columbus. I get on 270, I'm going around the airport. He said, "I ain't getting on that." Now I got to talk like a Kentucky.
You got to talk like him.
But anyway, we finally got on a plane, and I told the stewardess, "This is a special flight." I said, he'd never been on a plane, so she got him some plastic wings. We got him settled down. So we get to Moline, and we stay in the best motel in town, best hotel in town. And it's got a 4-story atrium, And he's going over filling this tree to see if it's real. I mean, this was a real trip. So anyway, that evening they had a fabulous dinner. They had the best, and they had a couple violins and had a piano playing and everything. And I'm sitting next to him. He said, "Bill, which one of these forks I eat with?" But this is the week that was. But the kicker, he didn't know what was coming down. He got to see his skidder being built. He went right down the line and watched the skidder being built.
That was the thing that sealed the deal?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, great.
I tell you, working with loggers, you never know what's going to happen. I'm in Armco one morning with an engineer, and this technical on a hydraulic breaker raking slag. 3 hours later, I'm up Straight Creek with a logger that's got an 8th grade education, but he can look at that white oak tree and he'll tell you how many board feet of lumber's in it. So you got to get yourself on the level
You gotta
that you're dealing with.
relate, don't you?
Yeah.
When you got out of the service, did you get into the reserves or
No.
National Guard, anything
No.
like? Did you get to be a member? Were you a member of any veterans groups?
Oh yeah, I belonged to American Legion for years.
Okay.
For years.
Where's your post? Is it down here?
23.
23?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm in that one too, so, yeah. Now, So altogether, would you recommend the Air Force or the military to a young
Well,
person?
I got a grandson. I tried to talk into the Air Force, but he's in the Navy.
Oh,
He's got 8 years in now. He's somewhere in the Red Sea.
oh, really?
As a matter of fact, I talked to my daughter. She says the Marine girl was killed and the 13 were killed. Was on that ship because they have a Marine. It's a special ship he's on. It's a fast reaction group. They're all Marines that they can go in right now anywhere in the Middle East that had a problem.
During your military, did you ever see anybody famous at any time? Did you ever see a president or did you ever see anything like that?
No.
Generals? You saw generals?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. Is
The
there
highest rank I ever seen is that colonel I kicked off a plane.
Does he know that you were responsible for that?
Well, he knew that what CIP AP was. He knew what that was, but he was very upset.
I'll bet. You still have your uniform?
No, I have nothing. Nothing.
You don't have any souvenirs from the service?
What I have, I think I had harem cushions, and I brought leather goods, and I was engaged. I gave her Bavarian china and all the stuff I sent home.
She got all your stuff? and
But
then-
that was a good lesson. I didn't get married till I was 27.
Oh,
so
right.
she done me a favor.
Yeah.
She let me grow up before I got married.
Well, good for you, I guess. You got anything else you'd like to say?
The only thing I say about the Air Force, right here, if you know the school teacher's teaching history, tell him, take your class up to the Air Force Museum. Don't cost a dime. And if you can't walk in that, they got the Kroger buggy, you can get on it, and if a teacher did that, what they would plan this. Say you're studying World War II South Pacific. He can take you all the way through it, as far as the air war in the South Pacific, and you see they got it set up now where they got the tents. You can hear the crickets. You can hear Glenn Miller playing the music, and the guys working on a aircraft engine. And you see it all. Now they got the big space program. That's all new building. Mm-hmm. They have all the Air Force One aircraft. The presidential planes are there, and you can go through all those.
When were you up there last?
Well, I was there with a church group. Mm-hmm. This has been about 4 years ago. No, I was there at my great-grandson's birthday party. That's where he wanted to go. He wanted to go there.
How old is he?
He's about, I think, 6 or 7. He got all up on space. He had a space suit on and all that.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, Bill.
Okay.
I really appreciate you coming in.
I've had a good life.
Hope you.
I've been out of the Air Force 65 years.
65 years.
Yeah, I got out in 56, 65 years ago.
What's your church that you go to?
I go to Willersburg Methodist. We still go up there.
That's where I have my Boy Scout troop.
Oh, I've seen you there. Yeah.
No, you haven't. Not for a while.
Well, the guy that bought my house was originally from Willersburg, graduated from high school, and he works with the Boy Scouts. He graduated from a gas company in Pennsylvania, and he's moving back here.
Okay.
And he's going back to the same church that I go to.
Okay, well, that does it.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah.
Tell us your story.
Yeah, I can tell you some good stories, but I can't really tell you.
Well,
I'm going to tell you one.
Tell us one here.
Turn it off.